was that we were told that we can use Zoom to connect on LinkedIn Live. But in fact, no. So as you can see, we are on, I think it's called StreamYard, because StreamYard does a job when Zoom could not do it. So with any further ado, thank you so much for being with us. It's really a pleasure. It's our second live event, and it's every week, every Wednesday, same time. And today, the subject of today is about education. It's enhancing mental wellness to advance education and parenting. And I have with me my partner, Dr. Lebovitz, and Dr. Sherry Kelly, who is, I believe, on the south in Boca Raton today, right?
Yes.
I hope you have a better weather than in eastern United States.
Yes,
So,
I think it's warm today. It's about 75 degrees here.
okay. So, Dr. Leibovitz is the chairman of the Mental Wellness Society. He is also the chairman of the Mindful Choice Academy, and he is my partner in Mindful Choice and all the activity of Mindful Choice. We created it together over 15 years ago. Me coming from research at Carnegie Mellon, and him coming from a long career of psychologist, clinical psychologist, and he will explain you that. And Dr. Sherry Kelly is an expert in education. She is have been working in research. She is very much involved in all aspects of education, psychology, and I would say even no education. She is not just a psychologist, but she is also a researcher. And at this moment, I will ask, in fact, Dr. Kelly to introduce herself and explain us about the group that she is leading in Mental Wellness Society, the group of parenting that parenting and education that she's sharing. Who is on that group, what they are doing. Tell us about it, Sherry.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Abraham Meyer, and hello, Dr. Leibovitz. It's an honor to be with you today. Um, just real quickly, a little bit about my background. I'm a clinical psychologist and a clinical neuropsychologist, and I received my master's from NYU and another master's in health psychology from Yeshiva University in New York, and my PhD from Yeshiva University in New York. And I did a APA internship at the University of Minnesota in clinical psychology and pediatric neuropsychology. And I was a National Institute of Health fellow in pediatric neuropsychology and also psycho-oncology at New York Hospital and Memorial Sloan Kettering. So I have had about 25 years of experience as a clinical neuropsychologist. But before that, I also was an educator. So I've been on both sides of the desk, so to speak, as a psychologist and as an educator, and I'm also a parent. And one of the things that I'm really excited about with the Mental Wellness Society is the opportunity to share with other parents around the world and other educators around the world, sharing our concerns for our children, sharing our resources to help our children and to support other parents and educators. This very unique time in our history is one that presents challenges as well as opportunities as parents and as teachers. So many of the concerns that I've heard from parents around the globe are those concerns that so many of us parents have in common. We're concerned about the impact of COVID on our children, the lifelong impact. We're concerned about the stress that the isolation of COVID has had on our children. Maybe that children in your own family or the kids that you teach have been without their social group because school has been closed. So many kids have missed out on important developmental life events. And this has had an impact. And what can we do as parents and as educators to help our children not only cope through this, but also build resiliency? This pandemic is not going to last forever, but the lessons that we can teach our children can last a lifetime. So that's one of the missions of the parenting and education group, is to discover and embrace the strengths that we already have in there as parents and teachers. How can we mobilize those strengths? How can we utilize our knowledge and our resilience to help our kids? And what programming can we implement? What initiatives can we create to help our children thrive through this very challenging time and give them the tools that they need to survive and thrive and flourish through their lifetime? I always send the message to parents that we have more power than we realize in proactively helping our kids become more resilient. And we also can very much take comfort in the fact that we have this time to really teach our kids how to cope effectively. And that's one of the wonderful groups of opportunities or collection of opportunities that parents and educators have through the Mental Wellness Society, is all these resources that we can use to help our kids today. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Dr. Gerard Meyer and Dr. Leibowitz. Maybe you have some more questions.
No, but I will add something.
Thank you.
That with your daughter, you have a program called Positive Teen.
Positivity Teens, and I want to share Positivity Teens, and we have just passed our 4th anniversary. It's a bittersweet anniversary, February 14th, 2018. My daughter was in school down the street, and my husband was working down the street from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, where we used to have a house. And my daughter lost 2 of her friends in that tragedy, and many, many more friends and neighbors were in the high school that day. And out of that tragedy, my daughter and I started Positivity Teens. We realized that many of her peers were not having access to mental health care to help them cope through the tragedy. And as my daughter so wisely said at that time, at age 14, she asked me, "Mom, what really I don't understand is how can this troubled teen have easier access to a semi-automatic weapon than to mental health care?" And through her question, we decided to do something, and we started Positivity Teens, which provides access to mental health care for teens all over the world. And Caitlin and I have done webinars for teens, parents, and teachers across the globe since that time. So thank you for bringing that up.
But what I wanted to say is, one of these days, we have planned to schedule a live event, maybe a live event or a series of events, we'll see how it goes, for the children of the members of the Mental Wellness Society.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. We are planning on doing that, to have a webinar just for the children, teens of our Mental Wellness Society members, and for them to share what their experience has been over the past couple of years with COVID.
So I think it's a way that not only the parents, our colleague, benefit to be part of the big global toolbox in mental wellness, but their children can get the benefit of the parent involvement as well.
Yes.
Okay, with that said, I will ask Dr. Leibowitz to introduce himself on to speak briefly about Mental Wellness Society, Mindful Choice Academy, and Mindful Choice Method.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. As Dr. Meyer mentioned, we have been partners and collaborators for close to 14, 15 years now, working on Mindful Choice, working on the Mental Wellness Society and the Mindful Choice Academy most recently. I am a clinical psychologist. I got my PhD from Case Western Reserve University, and my specialty has always been working with children and families. When people ask me, in fact, if I have a specialty, I tell them, yes, I work with adolescents of all ages. I have teen adolescents, I've got young adult adolescents, I've got senior adolescents. I work with adolescents of all ages. But I also, for many years, I was on the faculty of the University of Pittsburgh. I supervised their PhD graduate students in clinical psychology and child and family therapy. And I actually did my research on how children understand death. And that was before, that was a period of time when we hadn't been experiencing so many of these tragedies. But it was an interest of mine, and I've worked a great deal in grief work with children and families, and that's one of my areas of specialization. Dr. Meyer and I came together, actually serendipitously, to try and figure out how to teach teenagers who have ADHD how to drive safely. And we were looking at the ways they made errors in their judgment and their thinking process, when we came to recognize that that's how we all make errors in judgments, the same way they do. We become impulsive or inattentive, and those are the primary causes for judgments, for errors in judgment. And so we developed the Mindful Choice method and the model and all the things that have since born from it. And there was a point now it's about 2 years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when we recognized that we really want to go beyond and expand beyond the domain of children or families or adults who have mental health, how should I put it, mental health issues or problems, to the general society at large, to improve the mental wellness of society. And that's how we came up with the entity that is now today the Mental Wellness Society, and it's developed into something really extraordinary in such a short period of time. We have lots of experts, lots of people from different fields, and it's really demonstrates the tremendous need and recognition that people have in so many fields, that this is something that we can actually implement to improve society. We can actually improve the mental wellness. And in tandem with the Mental Wellness Society, we've expanded to create the Mindful Choice Academy, which will become, we're going to have a soft opening, but then there's going to be a much more, how should I put it, prominent opening, where we can become a platform for helping people learn a variety of different ways in just an enormous scope of ideas and programs for improving mental wellness. And the Mindful Choice method is what we believe to be a fundamental model for doing so. But we appreciate and recognize that there are lots of different ways to do that. And we're looking forward to encouraging people's participation, people from the Mental Wellness Society participation, to help us develop programs for organizations, for schools, for all different levels of educational input. And that's where we're coming from today. So today we're going to talk about parenting and education and children. And I think the Mindful Choice method, actually, and Dr. Kelly can talk about this some more too, is really well suited for helping children develop resilience, helping children see choice, helping children learn how to make good choices, and developing the ability to cope with adversity. COVID has been a devastating condition for our children. I mean, by some reports, children have lost upwards to 2 years of their social emotional development. So this is really a prime time to be developing programs and approaching the issue of parenting and education to rebuild what our children have lost.
Thank you, Dr. Leibovitz. I will add that when we speak about mindful choice, what makes it different of many other methods is mindful choice is only positive psychology. We only deal with positive element because it's more motivating than non-positive element. And it's also metacognitive psychology, meaning it's about cognition, but it's about explaining how we think. By explaining people how we think and giving them a choice to think either, it's not thinking actually, it's reacting based on their emotion. And reacting, it's automatic reaction which are not conscious. Or to help people to make a conscious choice, a choice which brings them to what they want to achieve. So that's why we say it's better to have the choice to choose a life by design than a life by accident. And it's really about learning that because it's not intuitive. You need to learn it. It's counterintuitive because, in fact, you need not to look at the problem, but look at the solution. And it's where it intertwines with Mental Wellness Society, because the Mental Wellness Society is not like mental health, where it is to resolve a problem and it's problem-oriented. The Mental Wellness Society is about solution-oriented and it's prevention. So we are more about prevention where the people can choose what type of life and well-being they want to have. As we speak about children, we should not speak just about children and parents, but most importantly about educators, and also about the relation between not only the educators and the children, but the educators and the parents. And when we were speaking about ADHD, that could be the impulsivity element and the emotional element could be really a blunder in the relation between educators and children, and educators and parents and children. And we are going to speak about that. So the subject we were thinking to discuss today with you is how can we instill mindful choice into education and parenting for a life by choice and not by accident. That's exactly what I was introducing. Maybe Dr. Kelly, you can start to speak about it because I know you have some very strong ideas about that.
Thank you. So I've been fortunate to have taught several courses on social emotional learning to educators in New York over the past couple of years. And ironically, this was all set up before COVID happened. And then COVID came, and this was even more relevant than we had thought. I find that the Mental Wellness Society strategies through Mindful Choice Academy, for one, is very user-friendly for educators as well as parents. And one of the things I really like about it is that the programs are very solutions focused, not problem focused. We're focusing on what works, how to get to yes, how to get to wins for kids. And it's very purpose driven. I am convinced that we can't parent by accident, nor can we live life by accident. We have to be purpose-driven parents. And by that, I mean, we have to have a larger picture of, how do we want to grow our kids? What kind of adults do we want to raise? Not just what kind of children do we want to raise? And in a very changing world as we have now, in a world where the future is coming at our kids faster than we have ever imagined, we have to teach them how to pivot, how to be emotionally and cognitively flexible for shifts in value systems that might come with the world, but not shift in their value systems from within. And how to be resilient. And resilient goes beyond being good at coping. Resilience transcends coping. Resilience involves not only coping, but also grit and making meaning of what happened. So I find that the Mental Wellness Society programming and Mindful Choice Academy also provides parents and educators with really the basics on how can I, as an adult, parent, or teacher, change the way I think, change the way I communicate, that will in turn change the way that my students or that my kids think about behaviors, think about challenges, and making choices. And oftentimes, the first bit of advice that I give to both parents and teachers, because they get overwhelmed by trying to remember, what is I'm supposed to do. I start with your very basic self, and I explain to parents and teachers, don't worry so much. Number one, don't worry about saying the right thing. It's your attitude that the children will remember more than anything specific that you might say. And so it's to, think about your attitude, catch yourself in negativity. If you are a very negative person, that's coming up. So the point in that I'm saying this is, number one, make a decision, make a mindful choice that you want to be that positive voice of reason in your child's life, that positive influence in your student's life. That's probably why you became a teacher in the first place. I know that that's what led me to teaching in the first place. So, think about that. And then from that attitude, we can build on to reframing, to deciding, helping kids to decide how to make choices and how to look at outcomes, how to look at our goals and how we want to make important choices in our lives. So that's just the first thing that I start with. I'm going to ask Dr. Leibovitz to add on to that, just for the first steps in changing the way that you might approach communicating with kids and in deciding to enter into more of a mindful choice.
Absolutely. Everything you're saying just resonates so strongly with the mindful choice method, because at one point in time, we really tried to distill it down to 3 words, the entire method. And the 3 words that we came up with at the time, which still has a lot of applicability, were destination, awareness, choice. And destination is exactly what you were describing, Dr. Kelly. It's, where do we want to get to? What kind of adults do we want our children to become? What is it? How is it that we'd like to see them be? Because once you have a destination, then you can very easily identify, well, what works to get me there and what doesn't work to get me there. Clearly, if I'm going to, allow my, impulse to dominate in this moment and say or do something that is not going to improve my chances of getting to that destination, that's a bad choice. That's a bad choice on the part of a parent or an educator. So it's very much focused on, where do we want to get to and what's the best way to get there. And once you know that a good choice is anything that brings you closer to a destination, and a bad choice is anything that makes it harder for you to reach that destination, you're way ahead of the game. And you can convey that, and exactly as you mentioned, Dr. Kelly, you convey it in your attitude as much, if not more, than your words. And choice is one of the most powerful things you can teach children. I've been saying this in my practice and in my personal life with my own children, that giving children real choices, meaning you can do X or you can do Y, and whichever one you do, I'll abide by, but here are the consequences of doing X, and here are the consequences of doing Y. We teach children both resilience and self-efficacy, that they really can, their actions really can matter and can direct their lives. And that's a fundamental aspect of how to reach and develop children to be the adults we'd like them to be.
Very good. I will add that in Mindful Choice, we explain and we teach that if I change the way I think, it will change the way I feel and I behave. So it's really about changing the way we think.
Mhm.
And I mean to think, because many people don't know the difference, for example, between emotion and feelings. The emotions are in the brain. They are hardwired. They are very quick. And we are mammalian. And mammalian have a mammalian response. Flight, fight, freeze. All mammalian. We need to, at that moment, not to be a mammalian and have an attitude to be trained to not react in a mammalian way with what we call the whole brain, but to use our what we call the new brain, which is using the prefrontal cortex to make a judgment, to make a decision, to make a reasoning. And this is totally thinking. And that's the difference. That's why we use mindful choice by opposition to making a choice which is driven by your emotion. Looking at your destination is what we do with kids when there is a problem. And I am fortunate to have been to get a great miracle to have I have a 3.5-year-old. And my little daughter, I am able to, when I had my other kids, I did not have mindful choice. So obviously I want to apply mindful choice in my everyday life. And on my 3.5-year-old, we apply this. If she make a tantrum, and if there is a problem, it's well, maybe you need time by yourself. And she knows. She say, "Yeah, I go in my room." She close the door, and we don't dare to enter. And then after a certain time, she come out and she say, "Well, I'm sorry. I was okay. I'm sorry." We don't even ask what are you still sorry about. We don't ask what happened. We don't speak about because it's the past. It's past. We are just taking the moment. We live in this instant, and like if nothing happened. And obviously, we say, "Oh, we are so happy to see that you are in good mood, and now we can do this, we can do that, and so on." But there is no, and obviously, it happened. We need to bribe, and we say, if you spend the week without any tantrum, without making any problem, you have a gift. So Monday, she tells me, this week I want that gift, and I will pay attention to not make any problems. Okay, I'm giving you one example. But in fact, the idea is not to focus on the problem, and it applies in every dimension of life. You have a problem with your spouse, not worth it to continue to say who was right, who was wrong. No, go from that point and go where you want to be, which is to have a happy and peaceful life. That's your destination, and that's where you need to work. That's a mindful choice, because you follow the choice of peace, happiness, and growth, and being happy together, and that pays off. That pays off. So that's what I wanted to say. But yes, the attitude is everything, and it's to acquire an attitude of thinking. And actually, we are working with one of our friend who is here, Rinda Montgomery, and she is helping us to implement our program, Mindful Choice, for therapies, coach, adult, professionals, and to clone the concept for different age group in K-12 for kids. And she's doing a wonderful job. And in fact, what my partner was explaining, the 3 words she have now for kids is breathe, think, choose, which is pretty good, actually, pretty powerful. And we are developing a lot of programs. So yes, we are going to, with her help, we are going in schools. We have programs that they are developing for educators and for parents, and that's what we are trying to do.
I just want to
So,
add something to what you're saying. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Leibowitz, go ahead. I don't want to
No, please. Yeah.
So, when I speak with educators who might be a little bit incredulous about this positive psychology approach, which I really am for, I think it's very effective. They're, concerned about toxic positivity. They're concerned about, is this trying to deny real problems or deny real emotions? And no, it's not. Obviously, we're not diminishing emotions. We're actually educating kids about what emotions are. And, so many of us grew up in households where emotions were judged or criticized, maybe not intentionally, but they were. And we try to inform kids that emotions are neither good nor bad. They're like alarm bells. That's the metaphor I use for kids. They're an alert system or an alarm bell going off. And I try to have kids, instead of react right away, we're going to learn how to reason. And the first step in that is to be mindful of the emotion and take stock in it and think, well, what are these emotions trying to tell me? What might this feeling be telling me or alerting me to? And so I often play a game with kids called the what not why game. Some of you might be familiar with it. So instead of, focusing, why do I feel so sad? An example would be, okay, well, tell me, what does that feeling feel like to you? And what might those times you feel sad have in common? Or what might happen right before you feel sad? Or what are you thinking when you feel sad? And this is one way of teaching kids about exploring their emotions in an objective way that's not judgmental. And then we can move into then objectively making good choices and decisions about responding rather than quickly reacting. We live in a world where our kids are digital natives. From the time they're very small, they're on their screens, swiping left and right, whether it's a educational game or a toy or some kind of a entertaining game on their iDevice. And what this is really fostering, unfortunately, is a system of reactions rather than true responding or reasoning. Right. And so this is one of the things that I think that mindful choice can do, is to help counteract some of that impact.
Right. I want to be very clear. I'm glad you zoned in on this particular issue. Mindful choice is not purely or in a sense definitively cerebral. Absolutely not. We recognize that as humans we are multifaceted, and our emotions and our emotions and our feelings, as Dr. Meyer said, those are not the same. And our emotions and our feelings just enhance absolutely how we live. At the same time, if you look at the process of socialization, if you look at the way in which we lead children to become more mature and more adult, a huge part of that is how to manage those feelings, those emotions, because they can be so overpowering, so powerful that they can become destructive in a person's life if they are not appropriately managed. And reason is the tool for managing emotions. you might think of it as, emotions are the block of marble that Michelangelo began with, and reason is the chisel and hammer that he used to create the beautiful, magnificent sculptures that he came out with, right? And one impacts the other to create something that is much bigger than either one alone. So that's really what we try to accomplish with mindful choice. And mindful choice is a tool. It's a hugely effective tool for being able to manage those things, just as you said.
Yeah, and actually, when we were talking about preparing this broadcast with Dr. Kelly, we were saying if we had to give an advice tonight for the people who are watching, is watch your reaction on emotion in front of your children. And that is valid for the parents and even more for the teacher. Because that they will remember is what monkey see, monkey do. And that actually, we in research, we have seen that the bad driver are learning to be bad driver by sitting on the back seat of the car of the father. And it's the same, the reaction to those emotions, to be volatile, to be explosive, if you act like that, and pretty much if you have a child who have ADHD, at least one of the parents have also ADHD, and it's a very volatile environment. That's where we can help to show that there is another way. And that way is not emotional, that way is by mindful decision. I will close that round of discussion by saying that you both helped me to bring two cards, because we are going to talk a little bit about the tools. One is what, not why. Mm-hmm. We have in that card, and we never should ask a child why you did this, or an adult, why you did that, because you did it, because you don't know what you did because you did. And maybe certainly your emotion have been pushing you to do it. And you don't even know why you have done it. But you need to go in what were you doing? What were you feeling? And most important, what other road could have you taken? What other direction? Which would have bring you to a more satisfactory situation, to a good decision. On the second card we have was a card about emotion versus reason. You see here the reason have more weight than the emotion, which is in the heart. So that's two cards about what we have. So I will now show you the different tool of mindful choice. So let me show you those tools. So the mindful choice, our mindful choice product, will show you those products. That's the first one. You have Mindful Choice ebook, Mindful Choice Evoke. That's what I was showing you with a card. And the third one is a Mindful Choice skill course, which is an interactive computer interactive system. They are not very expensive. They run from $99 to $300. So it's not really, but they are very advanced, and they help people to learn another way to decide. So let's go to the next slide. One of them is a tool book. It's an ebook about the method Mindful Choice. The third one is the one, the next one is the Evoke card. On the Evoke card, it's 80 iconic cards, because each card is really showing you, it's not just an image, but it's an icon you can remember. So you can remember what it means very quick. And we have found from research that talking with words, most of our clients say, I feel great when I was with you, but 2 hours later, I don't remember what you told me. And we give them a recording of the session we have with them. So we have found that an icon, which is here, for example, this icon is your past does not determine your future. Those icons are talk to the person and they remember. And now we have an online course of Mind Evoke professional skill cards. And this online gives the explanation on each card, how to use it, on which one to develop, and which one not to do. So if you are interested with any of our course, you can get them to www.thementalwellnesssociety.com. It's what you have here. You can also join us, or you can tell your friend to join us, because now we have our own from the Mental Wellness Society. On the top of the website, you can click on join our global network, where even people who are not part of the Mental Wellness Society can join. And we have there, we have there a lot of different topics, which are really for everybody, because we have experts in every field. So with that said, we have few minutes. Rinda, would you like to talk a few words about how you see mindful choice on education, as you are involved in that? Rinda is a vice president for academic affairs, and she's involved in all the curriculum and certification by State University of the curriculum we have. Rinda.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Rinda Montgomery.
I am really excited about the pilot projects that we've begun as we start transitioning the materials, the excellent materials in the Mindful Choice array of products, as you just saw examples of, and translating them to student work and student level language and activities. It's been really remarkable. We've got a pilot project in its 5th week, and we're starting another one next month, to primarily focus on grades 5, 6, 7, and 8 to get a feel for how they will respond to these kinds of activities, and they're responding remarkably well. As Dr. Leibovitz mentioned, destination was the first thing he came up with. This is where I chose to begin the work with the students, to have them begin to envision what they wanted their lives to be, not just work, not just what do you want to do when you grow up, but who do you want to be? And they've begun creating, actually are finishing up their destination vision boards and sharing them with each other and talking about what kind of image they have for their lives in the future, and getting a lot of ideas from one another too. It's also having quite an effect on the teachers, because they merely had a short introduction and access to resources, but they're learning along with the students. So they're following the curriculum, and they're learning along with the students and coming back with some really profound questions from themselves and the students as well. So it's been remarkable to see, and I look forward to expanding it to the next pilot project. And then we will be releasing the program in the summer, at the same time that we're going in a more robust release with the Mindful Choice Academy, which will, as Dr. Meyer said, demonstrate the learning opportunities from many, many, many members of the Mental Wellness Society International and their expertise. Dr. Sherry Kelly is one of the first ones on our list that we've been in contact with already to put together some coursework for people to take from her through the Academy. And so we're very excited about all of the things that we're able to do in education. K-12 is my focus, but I have done higher ed and adult learning for many years as well. And I've taught social emotional learning for decades. I was teaching it in the 80s in alt ed programs, and this is the most complete program that is positive focused and brings about results that get you toward the goal that you're setting for yourself, instead of just revisiting the problem again and again and again and admiring the problem, as I used to say. The focus on solution and the focus on resolution of real world problems that anyone faces is remarkable. And it's just helping so much with our students. The pilot project, of course, are students who are in online learning right now, and experiencing the pandemic. And I just had a teacher say this morning that she was asking her students about going outside and experiencing nature, and like that, half the students in her class are not allowed to go outside by their parents. So it's just a different world right now, and we're working with them to
Thank you,
help them
Rinda.
cope.
Thank you. But I may add that you have been trained in mindful choice for several months. You graduated recently on mindful choice. And just one short word. I think you become a mindful choice person, and that helps you to make better program for the children. Am I correct?
You are correct. Yes.
So you became a mindful choice person. It
Yes.
helps you in your own way of behaving or reacting in life, more reacting, avoiding a hasty reaction, on looking at the destination, and then you can instill it to children. But I will be very humbly accepting that you challenge the way we teach it to adults, to coach and psychologists, and you say, why don't we change the order? Can we change the order for the children? And you made an order, and I found that the order you are doing for children, I have a strong feeling that it will become what the order we will teach now, adult coach and psychologist.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much. Every week we have a different head of the different group in the Mental Wellness Society. Next week, same time, we have Dr. Kate Nietzsche and Lisa Goldenthal. They are co-chair of the Mental Wellness Society for the Health and Wellness Group. And that will be very interesting because it will show how the health and wellness, not just for the body, but for the mind and the body, is very useful to have a better life. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody. This will be broadcast also on different social media on our own platform, so you can share it with your friends. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.